I smiled the night my sister-in-law destroyed my son in front of 50 people. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I knew that was the moment everything would finally end. For 7 years, I swallowed insults meant for me and knives meant for my child. I learned how to stay quiet when the world expected me to break. They thought silence meant weakness. They never realized silence was my strategy. If you've ever been underestimated, if someone ever humiliated you and walked away thinking they won, then stay with me. Because this story isn't about anger. It's about patience, precision, and a revenge so quiet it felt like fate. And before I tell you how a single word, bastard, destroyed an entire family reputation in one night, I want you to do something for me. Like this video if you believe pain doesn't define your worth. Comment if you've ever had to stay strong in silence. And subscribe, not for me, but because stories like this remind us that justice sometimes waits, and then arrives all at once. Now listen carefully. Because what they did to my son was unforgivable. And what I did next, no one saw coming. Every morning, I woke up before the city remembered how to breathe. The apartment was still dark, the kind of dark that holds secrets instead of peace. I moved slowly, memorizing the floorboards that creaked, because Noah was asleep in the next room, and his rest mattered more than mine ever had. At 27, I didn't measure my life in dreams anymore. I measured it in his safety. I had learned early that love could be quiet and still be unbreakable. I packed his lunch with the same care I used to build my days, controlled, deliberate, invisible to anyone who didn't bother to look closely. Noah was 7, small for his age, with eyes that noticed patterns adults ignored. Numbers came to him like instinct. Books calmed him the way lullabies never did. Teachers called him exceptional. Family called him something else. To me, he was proof that something beautiful could come from abandonment. I had been 19 when his father disappeared, younger than I want to remember, naive enough to believe honesty would save me. It didn't. I lost my parents' support. I lost my place in the family. What I didn't lose was my resolve. I worked harder than anyone knew. I endured smiles that cut and silences that judged. I taught Noah to keep his chin up, even when rooms went cold. Especially when rooms went cold. That morning, as I watched him tie his shoes, tongue pressed to his lip in concentration, I told myself the same lie I told every day: as long as I protect him, nothing else matters. I didn't yet know how many people were already planning to test that promise. The first time Rachel Whitmore looked at my son, she didn't smile. She tilted her head, like someone inspecting a stain they weren't sure could be removed. Rachel was my sister-in-law, married to my older brother Daniel, and from the moment she entered the family, she spoke the language of power fluently, polite words sharpened with judgment. She never raised her voice. She didn't have to. Her comments slid into conversations unnoticed, wrapped in laughter. "He's smart, considering the circumstances." Or worse, whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "Children like that usually struggle later." She never said his name. She didn't need to. Reducing him to an idea was easier. Rachel came from money. From influence. From a family that taught her how to weaponize reputation. Daniel followed her lead like gravity, choosing comfort over blood. My parents watched, silent, calculating what association with me and my son might cost them socially. Rachel noticed everything. She always did. At family gatherings, she placed herself at the center, orchestrating attention with a precision I came to recognize too late. When Noah spoke, she redirected the room. When he succeeded, she suddenly felt unwell. And when I defended him, she smiled, as if she just confirmed what she always believed. To Rachel, my son wasn't a child. He was a reminder. A threat. A mistake she intended to erase. And I was the inconvenience that came with him. The first injustice didn't arrive screaming. It slipped in disguised as concern. We were at a small family dinner, nothing formal, just enough people to make leaving awkward. Noah had brought along a science notebook, excited in the way only children who love learning can be. He showed it to my mother first. Then, hesitantly, to Rachel. Rachel flipped through the pages slowly, lips pursed, nodding as if impressed. Then she laughed softly and said, "You know, kids like this sometimes push themselves too hard to compensate." The table went still. My brother chuckled. My parents avoided my eyes. Noah froze. I asked her what she meant. She waved a hand, smiling. "Oh, nothing negative. I just worry when a child grows up without structure." She let the word hang, heavy with implication. Bastard, without saying it. Everyone heard it. No one stopped it. That night, Noah asked me if being smart was a way of saying sorry to the world. I held him tighter than necessary and told him no. I told him intelligence wasn't an apology. I told him he didn't owe anyone anything. But something had shifted. A line had been crossed quietly, so quietly I almost convinced myself it didn't matter. Rachel had tested how much she could say without consequences. And she learned the truth. She could say almost anything. The first real humiliation happened in public, where Rachel felt safest. It was my father's birthday, a rented hall, too many people and too much wine. Noah had been asked by a distant relative to show a small science project he'd been working on, nothing formal, just a child sharing something he loved. He stood there nervously, hands shaking, but proud. Rachel didn't interrupt at first. She waited. Timing was her talent. When Noah finished explaining, she clapped loudly and said, "Well, that's impressive, especially for a child without a proper family foundation." Laughter rippled through the room, uneasy, complicit. Someone murmured, "She didn't mean it like that." Rachel smiled wider. I felt the heat rise in my chest, the instinct to defend, to explode. But I saw Noah's face before I spoke. Confused. Ashamed. Learning something dangerous about the world. I swallowed every word I wanted to scream and placed a hand on his shoulder instead. Rachel leaned toward a group of women and whispered something. They glanced at Noah. Then at me. Pity followed by judgment. That was the real cruelty, not the words, but how easily she trained others to see us as less. That night, in the car, Noah stared out the window and asked if families could choose to stop loving someone. I told him yes. I didn't tell him they already had. Rachel laughed again as we left. And I understood something then. She wasn't joking. The consequences didn't come all at once. They arrived in pieces, each small enough to dismiss, heavy enough to accumulate. At work, I was passed over for a project I'd been promised. A colleague hinted that there were concerns about my stability. No one would say where those concerns came from. I already knew. Family gatherings stopped including us unless attendance was unavoidable. My parents spoke to me like a liability, reminding me, subtly, how much they'd sacrificed by standing by me. Rachel's stories traveled faster than I did. That I lived off assistance. That I manipulated sympathy. That my son was brilliant because he was damaged. Then came the email from HR Anonymous. Carefully written. Allegations about dishonesty, about misuse of company resources, about an unprofessional personal life that reflected poorly on the firm. I sat at my desk, hands cold, reading my own character being dismantled by someone who had never built anything. I defended myself with facts. With documents. With calm. It was barely enough. The investigation closed without punishment, but something worse remained, doubt. Trust, once cracked, never fully returns. That night, I cried alone in the kitchen after Noah went to sleep. Not because I was afraid of losing my job. But because I realized my silence wasn't protecting him anymore. It was teaching them I could be erased slowly. And Rachel knew it. There's a specific kind of loneliness that only comes after humiliation, when the world keeps moving and you are expected to move with it, as if nothing happened. I stopped correcting people. I stopped defending myself. At family events, I smiled, nodded, and spoke as little as possible. Rachel noticed immediately. Silence had always been her favorite response. At home, I unraveled quietly. I waited until Noah slept before allowing myself to feel anything real. The walls heard everything. The fear. The exhaustion. The question I never said out loud, how long can I protect him like this? I withdrew from everyone who could report back to her. I declined invitations. I limited contact. To them, it looked like shame. Like retreat. Like defeat. Even my parents stopped calling, relieved to no longer explain me away. Rachel filled the space I left. She hosted. She performed concern. She told people she worried about my mental health. Her friend, an overly helpful nurse named Claire, started appearing in stories about Rachel's sudden illnesses. Emergencies timed perfectly whenever Noah achieved something. From the outside, I was vanishing. From the inside, I was watching everything sharpen into focus. Patterns. Habits. Timing. Lies repeated so often they forgot to stay consistent. I wasn't collapsing. I was going dark. And no one thought to ask why. The decision didn't come with drama. No tears. No speech in the mirror. It arrived one quiet afternoon while Noah was doing homework at the kitchen table, solving problems meant for children twice his age. He looked up and asked, calmly, if people ever get punished for lying long enough. That was when I understood something essential. Rage would teach him nothing. Explosions only entertain the people who caused them. What he needed to see was consequence, designed, intentional, undeniable. That night, after he fell asleep, I opened my laptop and searched for one thing, private investigator. I didn't rush. I read reviews. I checked histories. I chose someone who specialized in patterns, not confrontations. I wanted proof that didn't argue back. I also wrote a list. Every incident. Every interruption. Every medical crisis. Every rumor that preceded professional trouble. I wrote until my hand hurt. Then I organized it. Chronologically. Psychologically. I stopped reacting to Rachel entirely. No flinching. No corrections. No visible pain. Just observation. She grew bolder. Cruelty always does when it thinks it's safe. This wasn't revenge. It was preparation. And once I started, I couldn't stop because for the first time, I wasn't waiting to be saved. I was building something they couldn't undo. Rachel thrived when she believed she was untouchable. My silence fed her confidence like oxygen. Without resistance, she rewrote the story publicly, casting herself as the reasonable one burdened by my instability. I watched her do it with a precision that would have been impressive if it hadn't been so cruel. She began excluding Noah openly. School events where invitations got lost. Family dinners where she suggested it might be too overwhelming for him. She spoke about him as if he were a liability, something fragile that needed to be managed out of sight. And people listened. They always do when lies are delivered calmly. Her false illnesses escalated. Claire's name appeared more often, hospital visits, dramatic recoveries, vague diagnoses no one could verify. Each crisis arrived strategically, usually days before Noah received recognition. Attention shifted effortlessly back to Rachel. She smiled from hospital beds. She cried on cue. My brother stood by her, proud of her resilience. My parents praised her strength. And me? I became a shadow. The unstable sister. The inconvenient reminder of a past they wanted buried. Inside, something dangerous settled into place, not anger, but clarity. Rachel wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of being exposed as ordinary. Of losing control. Of a child she couldn't diminish. She thought she had erased us. What she didn't realize was that every lie was tightening the pattern. And patterns are easy to prove. I just needed her to keep going. I stopped pretending to be powerless. Instead, I became invisible in plain sight. Every word Rachel spoke about Noah, every glance she threw at him, every carefully timed crisis, was recorded, not with a camera, but in my mind. I noted patterns, her pauses, her exaggerations, the way people shifted loyalties when she spoke. I watched her manipulate my brother, Claire, even my parents, and I cataloged it all. Their reactions were predictable. Her lies were repetitive. Her timing flawless, but only if you didn't see it coming. And I saw it. Noah noticed too. He didn't speak of it, but sometimes he would linger near me, eyes searching. I held his hand and whispered, "I see it all. I promise you, no one can touch you without paying." I didn't move yet. I didn't confront. I didn't alert anyone. Every detail mattered, the smallest slip, the faintest hesitation. Because revenge isn't loud. It's meticulous. And patience always changes the balance. Rachel believed she was untouchable. But the net was already forming around her. I didn't announce my plan. I didn't even breathe it aloud. The first move was subtle, almost invisible, a carefully placed question here, a quietly verified fact there. I hired an investigator who worked as silently as I did, tracing Claire's false hospital records, confirming Rachel's lies, documenting every word, every action that painted the truth behind the smile. At work, I started keeping meticulous logs of interactions that previously seemed minor, emails, odd comments, unexplained transfers of responsibility. Every stone Rachel had left unturned, every rumor she spread, every subtle dig against Noah or me, it was all being collected. At home, I whispered to Noah that sometimes the smartest moves aren't shouted. He nodded, wide-eyed, absorbing the idea that patience was a weapon stronger than anger. Rachel continued her performance publicly, unaware that her every action was being captured, catalogued, and analyzed. She thought she was winning, that the world still tilted in her favor. But now, the game had shifted. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was directing. And every move she made would only make the trap tighter. Just when the plan felt unstoppable, danger appeared. Claire, Rachel's accomplice, started acting nervously, slipping small truths in conversations meant to be private. Emails meant to stay hidden landed briefly in my inbox by accident. A doctor's note didn't match hospital records. One careless lie nearly unraveled months of careful observation. I felt my pulse quicken, but I stayed calm. Panic would undo everything. Instead, I doubled down, reviewing every recording, every document, every timeline. Rachel's confidence was now my weapon. Every misstep, even accidental, could be leveraged. Noah noticed my tension. "Are we in trouble?" he asked softly one night. I shook my head. "No," I said. "Sometimes even the smartest plans need extra care before the final move." Every day, Rachel seemed closer to discovering the edges of what I was building. Her gaze lingered on me at gatherings, her smile didn't reach her eyes. She was beginning to sense the shift. The trap was almost ready. But one wrong move could cost everything. And I couldn't afford mistakes, not now, not ever. To keep the plan on course, I had to give up something precious. Not money. Not time. Not pride. I had to give up control of how the world saw me, at least temporarily. I let Rachel believe she was winning, that her lies were unchallenged. I smiled at her jokes, laughed at her false crises, and allowed people to doubt me openly. It was excruciating. At work, I took blame silently for errors I hadn't made. At family events, I endured whispers and side glances, letting them think I was fragile, defeated. Every misjudgment, every rumor, every moment where I appeared small was a calculated sacrifice. Each one strengthened the case I was quietly building. Noah watched, confused at first, but I explained softly, sometimes, the strongest move is to let them think they've won. Patience is the real victory. He nodded, trusting me, even when he didn't fully understand. Inside, I burned with the knowledge that every humiliation I endured now would become the evidence that would break them later. And while Rachel celebrated her imagined triumph, she had no idea she was walking directly into the trap I had built for years. Patience, silence, and sacrifice had set the stage. And soon, the world would see everything. The night of the school's scholarship celebration arrived, and everything was set. The hall glittered with lights and applause, a stage perfectly suited for exposure. Rachel, as expected, moved to the center like a predator confident in her power. My heart pounded, not from fear, but anticipation. Every camera, every witness, every person she thought would be on her side had already seen the evidence she had no idea existed. Noah walked up to receive his award, proud, brilliant, completely unaware of the storm Rachel was about to unleash. And then she struck, grabbing the microphone, smiling sweetly at the crowd, and in front of 50 people, she called him a bastard. Laughter followed, shock rippled through the room, and my son froze, tears welling in his eyes. It was perfect timing. And that's when the trap closed. The doors opened behind Rachel, and my son's father, Lucas, entered with 2 lawyers. Calmly, methodically, he began revealing what had been collected over months: falsified hospital records, recorded confessions, documented lies, and financial manipulations. Rachel's smile faltered. She tried to speak, but the proof was undeniable, overwhelming, surgical in its precision. The laughter died. Shock consumed the room. And in that moment, the hunter became the hunted. Rachel froze, the microphone trembling in her hand as Lucas displayed every piece of evidence: videos of her orchestrating lies, receipts proving fabricated medical crises, recordings where she confessed to manipulating everyone around Noah. The room went silent. 50 eyes were fixed on her. Every whispered doubt she had planted was now screaming the truth back at her. I felt Noah clutch my hand, trembling, but safe. The humiliation that had hung over him for years reversed in an instant. Gasps turned into murmurs of disbelief as lawyers detailed defamation, emotional abuse, and financial manipulations. Rachel's allies faltered, Claire's face went pale, Daniel slumped in disbelief, and even my parents couldn't hide their shock. She tried to speak, to twist the narrative, but every word was drowned out by the weight of evidence. The crowd watched, horrified and captivated, as her carefully constructed world crumbled around her. What she thought was control, influence, and invincibility evaporated in front of everyone. Noah's tears transformed into relief. I squeezed his hand and whispered, "It's over. You're free." And for the first time in years, I smiled, not quietly, not in strategy, but with a deep, final satisfaction. The world saw the truth. And Rachel saw herself fall. The aftermath was swift and irreversible. Rachel's professional license was suspended, her reputation obliterated. The media, once enchanted by her charm, turned relentless, exposing every lie, every cruelty, every betrayal she had cultivated for years. Claire disappeared from public life, her role as accomplice now a stain she could never wash away. Daniel filed for divorce, humiliated and exposed, finally unable to cling to the illusion of loyalty. My parents, forced to confront the truth they had long ignored, scrambled to cover financial damages from legal settlements. Their wealth, once a shield, became a chain. They faced consequences they had long avoided, and in their silence, I finally understood how much courage it had taken to protect Noah alone. For Noah, the world shifted overnight. The scholarship remained intact. The school, the council, and even distant relatives rallied around him. Professional therapy, fully funded by Rachel's exposed lies, helped him process years of subtle trauma. And most importantly, he now lived in a home where he was celebrated, loved, and safe, shared between the mother who had quietly orchestrated justice and the father who had returned to take responsibility. As for me, Elena Brooks, I reclaimed every piece of my life. My career advanced, promotions followed, and the weight of judgment lifted from my shoulders. I walked away from toxic family ties without hesitation, stronger, sharper, and certain. I watched Noah play in the yard that first afternoon of freedom, laughter spilling into the sunlight. And I realized the truth I had always known: patience, strategy, and unwavering love can defeat even the most relentless cruelty. Some wounds never vanish, but some victories last forever. And as I held his hand, I asked quietly, almost to myself, did they really think we couldn't win? Because we did. And we always would. If this story moved you, hit the like button to show that strength and patience always win. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced someone who underestimated you or your loved ones? And subscribe to the channel for more real stories of courage, strategy, and triumph that remind us that justice can come quietly, but it always comes.